The brothers Rick and Marty Lagena are undertaking a large excavation on Oak Island's famed Money Pit area. They are working on a 7-diameter steel shaft known as True Believer 1, which has descended to a depth of almost 100 feet. The team has also recovered remnants of a mysterious wooden tunnel that resembles the vault, which may be evidence of the fabled Chappelle Vault, a 7-high container first reported by treasure hunters Frederick Blair and William Chappell back in 1897. Recent groundwater tests have revealed high traces of precious metals below the 100-t level, leading them to believe that this shaft is located within the original money pit. The casing is going in ridiculously easy for the last 4 feet, and the team is only about 3.5 feet away from their first target horizon, 98.5 to 99. As the TB1 shaft advances deeper toward the possible tunnel, an 18.5-ton tool known as a hammer grab is being used to bring the spoils, and possibly man-made workings, to the surface. The team is approaching the depth of the tunnel, and they are expecting to encounter a lot of wood if it is indeed a tunnel. They are at about 110-111 feet right now, which is the very end of their first zone of interest. An interesting piece of wood has been found with grooves and a dowel. This indicates the same construction methodology as the U-shaped structure, which is the oldest-looking wood they've found. The team is hopeful that the next scoop will be something hugely meaningful. In summary, the brothers Rick and Marty Lagena are working on a massive excavation in the fabled Money Pit area of Oak Island, hoping to uncover answers to the 230-year-old treasure mystery. Their efforts have produced a rare and priceless piece of wood that may offer important new information about the history of the region and possible discoveries in the future. The team is keen to discover the truth and is making every effort to descend to the depths required to reach the chapel. They are presently at 117 feet with their dig and are pursuing the treasure vault below at 150 feet. The team is committed to finding the treasure in the TB1 area, which is thought to be the location of the original money pit. As pressure decreases, the team is near the vault and considering a few doubloons or something. The ground around and beneath TB1 abruptly begins to collapse, causing the caisson to collapse. Vault. An intense situation is developing in the money pit area, and the steel caissons have hit a mysterious obstruction. The team is working hard to break through the obstruction and bring more spoils and potential valuables to the surface. This is a serious problem, since it implies that something is consuming all of the material down there. The caisson is a 30-foot drop, which is a significant amount of material, and indicates that something is occurring underground that is consuming a huge amount of material. The team is not sure if they will be able to advance the caisson, but they are not giving up. Vanessa suggests backfilling the area and keeping an eye on it every few feet to make sure there is no caving. But the team is losing material and cannot guarantee they will continue advancing. The team's most ambitious operation to uncover the answers and the fabled treasure vault is now in jeopardy. The question is whether Oak Island will prevail once more and maintain its priceless secrets, or if Rick, Marty, Craig, and his team can solve a mystery that has persisted for more than 2 centuries. The U.S. government has halted all ongoing inquiries into Oak Island's enigmatic past due to a recent find. The discovery involved more than just gold or antiques. It also involved a huge metallic item concealed beneath the murky waters. The content was unheard of in recorded history, and if the whispers are accurate, it may change the course of history, and someone would stop at nothing to conceal it. As excavation proceeded, the swamp's bottom appeared to vanish into nothing, and the more deeply they dug, the more suspicious natural formations, odd debris, and anomalies suggested it wasn't just a normal marshland. Scanning equipment discovered something enormous, metallic, and purposefully concealed. The stranger discovered gold traces in the water, archaic tools, and man-made structures. An additional disturbing finding was an ancient, corroded relic. Analysis of the relic showed that the materials were not from any known civilization. The markings and symbols resembled ancient languages, but tests dated it back much further than anticipated, predating the island's known history. Modern experts were brought in to examine the findings, but the site was shut down. While work on Oak Island hasn't entirely stopped, it has been severely limited. Treasure hunters continue their work under close observation. The mystique of Oak Island predates modern riches. Hunters with legends of weird happenings, unexplained disappearances, and eerie characters protecting the island's secrets in the early 1800s discovered the infamous Money Pit. Three young men discovered layers of wooden planks, coconut fiber, and other materials that were not native to the area. As technology advanced and more sophisticated methods were used, theories took a darker turn, and the Lagena brothers found something shocking in the renowned Oak Island money pit. Geologists Terry, Matt, and Charles Barkhouse were closely monitoring the DN-100.
The construction company representative speaker asserts their preparedness to deepen the garden shaft a few feet and is good to go as soon as the government's approval is confirmed. There was a need to return to Lot 5 to further investigate the marked spots from the day before. However, on getting there, a bunch of the team's archaeologists had already made a head start in digging into a mysterious tree with a rock foundation. The rock wall was found a year ago during a metal detecting process by Gray and Rick. Since its discovery, the team has been researching where it leads, as well as carefully digging into the ground surrounding it. So far into the digging, the team was able to recover some ancient artifacts, such as pieces of broken pottery, broken or worn-out pipes, and stems that, no surprise, were also reported to date back to the 1750s. Without a doubt, the timeline for the buried treasure is in the 1700s, as the soil of the garden shaft and the ancient tunnel also date back to this period. The archaeologists of the Oak Island team are very involved in drawing conclusions from the pieces of evidence gathered so far. The team believes the rock bed is not a result of friction or natural causes, but a deliberate attempt to keep something hidden underneath the Earth's surface. The archaeology team is still early in the digging, and there is a huge chance of uncovering many artifacts buried deep in the soil. One of the early discoveries of digging the flag-marked area was that the supposed gun part was taken to the Interpretative Center for Carbon Dating and further studies. It was found to be a piece of a dismantled musket used in Europe in the 16th century. The CT scan from Skyscan 1273 showed a very clear scan of the object, similar to when it was first created. From the clarity of the scan, some Roman numerical inscriptions, VIII, were found on the artifact, and while inscriptions are not infamous on artifacts, the chances of that tiny piece being marked are unusual, albeit deliberate, not coincidental. Also, there were similar inscriptions on artifacts found at Smith's Cove on the island. A 65-foot-long wooden structure was uncovered. It bore the same Roman numerals and was possibly an object for water diversion or to regulate flooding. Based on the artifacts complementing each other and being so closely carbon dated, it is not a far-fetched theory to assume it was the remains of the French naval military ship in 1776. After all, even the logs and travel journals point to Oak Island as the deposit site of the unsuccessful war. The two artifacts are very connected, and as time and excavation go on, more answers will be provided about the roots. The team had a collective agreement to revisit Lot 5 and research for similar or new artifacts. The seemingly never-ending drilling from the start of the day when studied had dug an impressive depth of over 105 feet into D5N 24.5, getting very close to the rumored passageway, a 7.5-foot wood from the tunnel said to be under the garden shaft. There was a timber blockage sucked in by the drilling machine. There is a high chance it belongs to a collapsed or rusted tunnel, confirming that construction is definitely underneath the garden shaft. Something interesting stands out about the 7.5-foot wood discovered. Its pattern seems closely linked to being hand-cut. The pattern is thought to be adze cutting, which dates back 2,200 years into Egyptian history. The adze is an ancient construction tool with two parts, a sharp blade and a wooden handle. According to Alex, if just a broken piece of the tunnel is about 7.5 feet, there is no chance that the adze used to carve the wood would be anything less in size. Although the adze is not expected to be 7 feet, it is expected to be above the average size of a regular adze. This further claims Oak Island to be a deposit site, as no searcher or aide would have been well armed to make such strenuous construction.
Doug Kroll, a researcher, found an English translation of a ship's log from an unknown French sailing vessel in the archives of Nova Scotia in the year 2017. The log identified a prospective suspect who was responsible for one of the treasure dumps, and that suspect was a French admiral from the 18th century who was known as the Duc de Fives. The record details the discovery of a deep bay to the southwest of Shuo Bay, which is today known as Halifax Harbor. The bay is surrounded by several hundred small islands that are wooded to the shore. Due to the large quantity of treasure that is on this vessel, it would be imprudent to put it in danger in any potential engagement. On September 8th, it was decided that a deep pit bidou and treasure would be securely buried in the pit. On September 13th, a 67-ton pit appeared damp from the southeast of the seawater, so they decided to go deeper to dry soil. Later, on September 10th, the expedition led by Duc d'Enfèvre arrived in Nova Scotia with the intention of retaking the fortress of Louisbourg, with the exception of one ship that was not identified and was carrying a sum of treasure that was possibly buried on Oak Island. The majority of the surviving fleet was given the order to return to France. Some believe that the answer lies in a connection between the Ras Khan family and the medieval order of the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were a venerable family with roots going back to the dawn of French history. Duke d'Anville's own family had connections to the Knights Templars, who were known about their connection to Oak Island for over 100 years. Some suggest that the Knights Templar may have played a key role in the Oak Island mystery, as the medieval Christian order is best known for leading the Crusades into the Holy Land, where they are believed to have recovered large amounts of treasure and sacred religious artifacts. Researchers have identified sophisticated structures on Oak Island that may have been built by the Knights Templar, such as tunnels, underground spaces, and waterworks. These structures would have required skilled engineers, as the Knights Templar were efficient and skilled engineers. The Knights Templar, a group of European knights, were responsible for the construction and burial of vast treasure on Oak Island. During the Middle Ages, this led to the theory that the Duc d'Enfèvre and his French fleet undertook a similar expedition centuries later in September 1746. 3 intriguing documents were presented to Rick and Marty Lagena and their team in 2016 by Zena Halper, who believed they had been created by the Knights Templar. One was an encoded cipher with symbols found. Among the other items was a map of Oak Island that was dated to 1347 and a map of Nova Scotia that was dated to the 12th century. A key detail that stood out to the Lanus and their team was a reference to the RW versus the family of the Duc d'Eve on the Oak Island map. The map was a gift to Francis de Rale, and they started looking into the possibility that the Rale family may have been involved in the earlier Templar voyage to the New World in 2022. In order to study the map, Marty Lagena, his son Alex, and Charles Barkhouse, an Oak Island historian, headed to Royston Cave in England. While there, they discovered bricks etched in the year 1347. These bricks could have been a spot that the Knights Templar used to store riches before surreptitiously moving them to Oak Island. The Ras versus the family crest, a symbol of the Rosefolt family, is also present on the map. The larger scope of the mystery is that Duc d'Anville, a Ras cult, was mentioned on Zena's map. It is possible that there was some activity conducted on the island associated with the Duc d'Anville expedition. If the ship's logs are authentic, it is possible that they made a deposition and dug a pit to deposit treasure on Oak Island for 228 years. The story of the Knights Templar's activities on Oak Island has survived, but the answers we don't have yet are still being sought. There are the rumors, hypotheses, and various theories surrounding the discovery of a treasure in Oak Island. It is believed that the Aztec Empire discovered pager clay worth more than gold in the sediment of the Mesoamericans around 800, and the shore shaft was the first shaft put down to establish a mine, and the Aztecs knew they could mine there. It suggests that the Aztec treasure is not located here, but rather a couple hundred yards away. The story begins with McGinnis and his friends digging at the Money Pit, where they discovered a platform of flat stone stones related to the Royal Arch of Enoch. This platform is believed to be a copy of Solomon's Temple and the Chambers of Enoch. Some Masonic legends